Ready, Sam?
Go.
Hello, Shaalvim for women! We have to start off before the Sanya, of Turetsky, of Goldsmith, all the Rebbeim, all of your teachers, everything that they do. And the halacha states that there is a shliach l'dvar mitzvah. As I'm sure many of you know, you could appoint an agent to do a mitzvah for you. And this is not the topic of my talk, but I think I'm the first parent, to be standing in this base measures today, this year, because of everything that's gone on. But I don't know every one of you by name. I don't know half of you by name. I probably don't know a third of you by name. But I can tell you that I represent all of your parents in visiting. We'll take a big selfie afterwards, put on the parent chat, and then we'll get a lot of comments. First of all, who are you? Second of all, how's my daughter? And I'll respond, what's her name? And I'll say she's great. She looks great, she's learning great, everything's great. But I represent all of your parents in delivering you a message that hopefully could be mechazik you during this Sichos Mussar for the last 5 weeks going forward of this tremendous, tremendous year that you had, a year of Sichos, a year to learn during a pandemic, not have other focuses. I know it's not so easy to stay in Shaalvim 98% of the time. You're finally getting to go out a little bit. But I wanted to share a short idea, and hopefully you guys will take this with you as you go home, as I think it's a topic that's top of mind to a lot of you. And I was going to give a halachic shiur, and I changed it to a Jewish shiur because it's Sichos Mussar. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Or Sichos Mussar, however you want to say it. I don't know what the correct pronunciation here is in Shaalvim. But I go back to last week's parsha, because as a parent, the beginning of last week's parsha, Kedoshim, really speaks to the relationship between a parent and a child. And I think that it's something that we all could learn from. The Torah tells us, Ish imo v'aviv tiro v'eshab sosai tishmoru. You have to honor your mother and father, fear them, and you also have to observe Shabbos. Now the Torah tells us in a couple of different places about Kibbut Av Ha'im. There's a Dibros very famous. The Torah tells us in a bunch of places about Hilchos Shabbos. But why the Mefarshim deal with the two together in this same pasuk as a superfluous type of mitzvah in Kedoshim? Kedoshim is filled with mitzvahs, to be holy. So granted, we're going to feel holy when we deliver this. But what is the connection between Kibbut Av Ha'im and Shmira Shabbos? So Rashi famously tells us that he says that when your parents tell you that you have to violate Shabbos, and they say, we don't want you to observe Shabbos, and Chas v'Shalom, no one has to go through this. But we don't want you to observe Shabbos. We don't want you to go to shul. We don't want you to make kiddush. Or even worse, we want you to come with us in a car to the beach. You want to go on a vacation. We're leaving on Saturday. You have to tell them, I'm sorry. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a little bit higher than you. I can't go with you. I can't violate Shabbos. I have to listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then Rashi adds a couple of simple words. V'chein b'kol hamitzvos. The same thing applies to every single mitzvah. Whether it's kashrus, whether it's anything that you want to think about, your parents tell you to violate it, not allowed to listen, have to listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seems simple. But what's the obvious question? Why then pick the mitzvah of Shabbos to teach us this halacha? I could have taught it through any halacha, any mitzvah. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu teach us through the mitzvah of Shabbos? The Sifsei Chachamim says, because perhaps there's a mitzvah saseh, there's a mitzvah lo saseh with Shabbos. It puts Shabbos into its own category. It's a very unique type of mitzvah. And perhaps that's where HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to try and teach us what the mitzvah of Shabbos is doing. And therefore, they picked the mitzvah of Shabbos to teach us this very famous halacha. The Orach Chaim says it's shekula keneged kol ha-mitzvos. If you're a mumar l'chal Shabbos, if you're established that you're l'chal Shabbos b'farhesia, I can't eat in your house for lunch. I can't trust you with other mitzvahs. If you're mechal Shabbos b'farhesia, it's very hard to get to that category today. But if you are, that's what the Orach Chaim says. It's shekula. It's equated to all mitzvahs. So therefore, that's why the Torah picked the mitzvah of Shabbos. The Kli Yakar gives a beautiful interpretation, and the Kli Yakar says, your mother and father partnering with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but your mother and father were the one that created you. And just the fact that they created you gives you the responsibility and the obligation to fear and honor them. After all, if not for your parents, you wouldn't be here. Impossible. Impossible. But if not for one level higher, if not for Kodesh Baruch Hu, your parents would not have been successful in having you. As we know, it takes a partner of 3 to have a baby. Don't have to go into the details. Mother, father, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you have to honor HaKadosh Baruch Hu because He created your parents. And therefore you have to listen to Him. I want to offer a different interpretation in terms of a piece of Jewish that I think is very, very appropriate. Any single mitzvah, your Rebbe, your teacher, your parent can teach you how to do it. They can teach you how to light candles. They can teach you how to light a menorah. They can teach you how to put on tefillin. They can teach you Hilchos Kashrus. They can teach you Hilchos Taras HaMishpacha. They can teach you all these halachos that are, here's what you should do, here's what you should not do, and a lot of them are outsourced. You're here at Shaalvim, you have all yeshiva day school, yeshiva high school experiences, you go to and you've learned a lot, you understand that. It all could be communicated by a rabbeim and teachers. However, when it comes to the mitzvah of Shabbos, it's very, very different. The mitzvah of Shabbos is not just what you can and can't do. And as kids, you grow up and you think, I can't go in the car. I can't play ball. Totally different discussion. I have to go to shul. I can't do this, I can't do that. But experiencing Shabbos is the responsibility of the parents. It's the responsibility of the parents to set the tone and the vibe as to what Shabbos is in the home. That can't be taught by a Rebbe. It can't be taught by a friend. It can only be taught by your parents because you're home week to week. So for this, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, Ish imo v'aviv tiro, not just talking to the kids. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not just talking to you to fear your parents. He's talking to the parents. Because you know that your kids are going to respect and fear you and look up to you, you have to set the tone for what Shabbos means on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, to enhance the Kedusha in the home, to enhance the spirituality. And this is why the Torah chose the mitzvah of Shabbos, Ishivo v'aviv tiro, not just for you, the responsibility on the child, but the responsibility on the parent as well, to understand that there's a responsibility in terms of how they observe the mitzvah of Shabbos. Each and every one of you are going home a very different person than you came. I could only speak for Talia. I have to publicly thank Sam Marilis for arranging this surprise. I can speak for Sam, I can speak for a few of you, that you are not the same woman when you entered Shaalvim for Women on August 24th, 25th, 24th, 25th, one of the two. That was the last time she said I gave her a hug, August 24th, until this morning. So you are not the same people. But you're going to go home, and your parents probably are the same people. I know myself. You try and grow. This year was a year of growth, spirituality, focusing on different type of mitzvos, reconnecting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because I didn't have to travel into work. Gave it back to myself in terms of Chavrusa time, gave it back to myself in terms of biking. I brought a road bike, I started biking outside, I lost 30 pounds, I was fit, changed my whole lifestyle. That's not this discussion. Your parents might have changed a little bit, but deep down at the core, they're probably the same people because they didn't go to Shaalvim for Women this year. When I came back from KBY, the same idea. And my father's a Rav, he's a rabbi, he's a big Talmud Chacham. Didn't know how to approach certain things. You get home and you're not sure how to deal with it. Are they going to respect what you want to do? You are going to set the tone as well in your house for Shabbos and for your observance of mitzvos. You're going to set the tone for what you want to do. You're going to set the tone for how you're going to do it. But I can only speak to you as a parent. As a parent, you just want the relationship with your child. Even if you're going to be doing more from a halakhic perspective than your parents, I guarantee you that whatever they're doing, we can find a basis in halacha somewhere that says what they're doing from a minhag, from a halachic perspective, is okay. You just got to be really learned to figure some of those out. But I guarantee you can figure them out. So don't think that you know Kol HaTorah Kula when you walk home. Because you don't. Because none of us in this room know Kol HaTorah Kula. And your parents don't know it, but there are reasons and simulations that you can do. So if you're at home and you have a challenge, rise to the occasion. I can tell you stories upon stories upon stories. When I come from Israel, some of my friends, they're like, I'm going to tell my parents they got to tovel all the dishes. I don't know if they were told. I'm like, that's a something. Why are you going to tovel them? I'm going to re-tovel all the dishes. I'm going to go here. I'm not going to go here. I'm going to tell them they don't know how to eat up food on Yom Tov. I'm telling them they don't know what they're doing on Shabbos. A lot of different detailed halachos. But it's about the relationship. I urge you to look deep in your hearts when you're going to come home. Look at yourselves and the growth. Look where you were and look where you are today. And I can only tell you that I'm sure it's full of growth. It's full of potential. And you're only going to rise to that occasion. But you want to make sure that you're doing it in the framework of the home, with your siblings, having them rise to the occasion, increasing the kedusha. You want to sit and learn? Kol hakavod, set the example. I can only tell you that you don't learn to do mitzvahs by watching someone, by hearing how to do a mitzvah from someone else. You learn how to do it by watching someone else do it. You want to set aside for kovei itim Torah, you learn, set up chavrusas, and that is what you're going to be respected for. And there's so many different stories as it relates to this. But that is the message that I wanted to communicate to everyone. And whether you're coming back for Shana Bet, or you're going home and you're not going to come back for Shana Bet, the biggest class ever for Shana Bet, that's amazing. 26 girls coming back for Shana Bet. I think that's unbelievable. But I'm sure there's someone here whose parents didn't let them come back for Shana Bet. Because when I was in Israel, in Kerbi Avda, there were parents in my class that didn't let their kids go back for Shana Bet. It's just like the sun rising and setting. Parents are not going to let their kids come back for whatever reason. Want to go to college, get your life started, get a shit up going, get married, whole different sets of ballgame. I'm not trying to set any of you up right now. We'll talk about that when you get back. But there's a reason behind it. So embrace it. Have a discussion with them. They're chuvas. Talk to your rabbanim about how to deal with it. There are a lot of chuvas about how to deal with these situations. And you have to know when to push, you have to know when to pull back. But the key is keep those strong bonds and relationships. Because as the Kli Yakar said, your parents were the one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that created you. Trust me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want you coming and causing a taram about any one of his 613 and hundreds of mitzvot and isurim d'Rabbanan. He wants you to embrace it. He wants you to do it with that type. So with that, I will close. And I just have to give a personal sense from an emotional perspective. Talia and I learn every Thursday. And people want to know how I carve out that time. Because I put it on my calendar at work, 3 to 4. I've been zochet that I give the Joshos in shul because we're outside in a COVID minyan. So I give the Joshos in shul. I can speak, Baruch Hashem, I got this ability from my father, Kedarsh, and watched him for many years, learning and honing these skills. So we prepare the Joshua. Sometimes she gives me ideas that I give over to the tzibur. Sometimes I give her ideas and we learn them inside. And I can tell you that as a representative of all of you, if you're learning a tenth of the way that she's doing it, you're on the right path. And I could just say that her siblings, her mother, everyone is tremendously proud of her. And I figured I'd use this moment just to embarrass her a little bit. Because coming in, she made a decision that she wanted to have, and every one of you made that decision to have the best year that you could. And I can tell you from the stories that I've heard about what you're doing, who you're learning with, how your chavrusas are going, what you're doing day to day, that you guys have accomplished that. But don't let that stay here. Keep it inside of you as you go back, and it's very easy to slip. You go back to college campuses, very easy to slip. Even if you go to Stern, very easy to slip. Come back here for Shana Bet, the summer, all the things that we just spoke about. Make sure that you internalize it, and make sure you have your friends, you have your chaverim, and hopefully HaKadosh Baruch Hu will see to it that you are just as successful as you were up until this point. You will learn from your rabbeim, you'll learn from your teachers, but most importantly, you will learn from your parents. Because they have a lot to teach you by the way they act, by the way they brought you up, and by the way that they're doing and they're interacting with their communities and their avodas Hashem. And hopefully you will all serve as a source of nachas, not only for the Shaalvim community, but ultimately for all of Klal Yisrael. Any questions? No questions? All right, score.